Welcome, everybody. This is two EdTech guys take questions and share cool stuff. And we are excited to do that like we are doing every week at about this time. Do that today. Oh, look at that. A reminder that worked. All right, so now we'll have that endless sentence at the bottom of the screen, which will no doubt help everyone. So all good there. So thank you for joining us. We want to pass out a few other thank yous, such as to all of the good folks at the Krause Center for Innovation at Foothill College in Los Altos Hills, California, and the members of the Merit 20 cohort. Good crowd that you are. Nice to have you with us. And then, of course, we want to thank all of the folks associated with Free Tech for Teachers. I think that encompasses like half the people on the panel.
Half the people on the panel. I mean, you can count my kids. They make appearances.
But do your kids weigh more than your dogs?
My kids do not weigh more than my dogs yet. My heaviest child is about 40 pounds. My dogs are about 80 pounds apiece.
All right. So over time, they will catch up, one will assume. All right, I run a little outfit called Next Vista for Learning. It's a library of videos online that include videos on academic topics and communities around the world and service to others and careers and English language and advice for teens, all kinds of different things. And I hope you'll give it a look. We got about 2,700 plus videos on the site for that. But I also want to take a moment today to give a big shout out to one of our favorite attendees, Cecilia Babkirk. So I'm going to take a minute to just tell you how cool she is and then tell you why we're not talking to her today. So Cecilia is amazing. She retired last year and went on the Peace Corps. And she was in Ethiopia teaching 11th graders English in this small town, a long way from everywhere else. And she's back because the Peace Corps brought all volunteers from all over the world back home as a result of the pandemic. And I have been promising for 2 weeks that after our recording, we're going to sit back and talk to Cecilia. And today, a thing came up that means right after this recording, we're going to have to stop. So those of you are like, no, we'd like to talk to you afterwards. I am so sorry. I'm lame. So anyway, the 2 weeks ago, it was my fault, but this week it's my fault. So you know, there you go. At any rate, she is a wonderful human being, and please look forward to meeting her next week when we talk to her after our program. Later today, 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, 4:30 Mountain, 5:30 Central, is activities across grade levels. And that is not the topic. In fact, the topic will be edu protocols. We have got John Carippo with us to talk about this. He is one of the least boring people I have ever met, just saying. Now, there's the slide. John Carippo, not boring. All right, so how this is gonna work. What we're gonna do is we got a bunch of questions that have come in over the course of the week. Richard will drive the truck on this one, and we'll handle some of these different questions, and then we'll stop to share some cool stuff, because in life you should share some cool stuff as you go. So with that, Richard, I hand it to you. Get us going.
All right, let's look at the first question. This is one that, again, it's been being asked by a lot of teachers, but this teacher in particular just emailed me the other day. Cindy says, I'm having trouble determining how to test my students that choose to remain at home. I have some students that are coming to class, they can be tested in class, but what do I do about the ones at home? How do you prevent them from cheating? Cindy. And this is a question that Cindy emailed me on Monday or Tuesday this week, a few days ago. And then it came up today in a staff meeting at my school, and I got a little hot under the collar, or a little hot under the face mask, as the case may be now, when this one came up. Because, as I said in our staff meeting, if your kids can Google all the answers, it's not a very good quiz or test. So there's that. But there's a lot of people who disagree with me for reasons that we don't have enough time to get into right now. But I will say this: if you are looking to monitor your kids on their home computers, taking a quiz or a test, that is getting into a whole realm of monitoring software that you'd have to install or have your IT person install. And I don't even want to touch the legal ramifications of forcing students to put software on their personal computers and have it monitored by the school. Like that's a law school debate that I'm not getting into. So my suggestion is,
Yeah.
one, change up the test. In my course, every grade is project based. That's how my course is. The other thing I would say is, if you insist on doing a multiple choice test, Google Forms does have a randomizer where you can give a random sequence or a random list of questions, as opposed to all the kids doing them in the same order. But that's about it. What do you think, Rushton?
Yeah, my answer to how do you keep them from cheating under these circumstances is you don't. And that's not because I think every kid is a cheater. I don't think that's the case at all. But the chances that you're going to convince every kid to treat things honorably, not great. But if you really just take the step back and you say, okay, what is it I want? Well, you want them to learn. Good. How do you know when they learn? Well, like if they do well on the test, then they learned it. Did they? If so, that's great. Do you know more about what they've learned if you have a conversation with them? Well, yes, but that takes time. Indeed, it does. However, it's not as if you have to take 10 minutes per student to do this kind of thing. If you take a look at the different topics that you are teaching and you say, here are the top things, if everybody can get this, then we're going to be all right. And then you say to that, okay, what do I want kids to be able to do? Do I want to be able to just parrot back what it is? If so, they'll be able to like Google that anytime, just like Richard was saying. But if what you want them to do is say, this is what this is why it's important, this is why it's interesting to me, this is a cool thing it connects to. Now, they can't do that in 10 minutes if they're going off the cuff, but if you get them to practice pulling all that down to like 2 minutes, and you record these things as you go as well, you end up with a bunch of performance assessment pieces that are actually quite strong. And the peer practice on this as they go, where they're talking with each other and they're helping each other out, right, with those ideas, that's good stuff. But then some of them will have like the same connections. Yes, and if they remember that and can articulate that to you when they're talking to you, then they're learning it, which is actually the key piece. So really what we're looking at is assessment, not from the standpoint of boom, a bunch of scantrons or something like that, but much more, I have talked with these kids, I don't pass them until they can do it, which means that they stop trying to trick, the game. Okay, I'm gonna get a little extra credit by bringing Kleenex or whatever they've done in the past. And instead, what they do is they're like, all right, I just have to learn it. If you reduce the options down to they have to learn it, they'll learn it. They will. And projects done with presentations, recorded things. And, but if you really like multiple choice, use it as a formative assessment tool. Use it as a way of prompting discussion. There are good reasons to use it for that.
So and for me, this year is the best year of any to do digital portfolios. If you've never done one before,
yep,
this is your year to start making digital portfolios or start having students make digital portfolios. It's a great place to start, and document progression over time. One other thing I'll throw in there as kind of an alternative or / online formative assessment you might consider doing, something called a 3-color quiz. I actually explained this in a webinar a few times this summer. Unfortunately, the webinar is not publicly available, but the idea is that you have students do some writing without consulting any work, without consulting any external resources. Then you have them do a little bit of writing in a different color. This is where the 3 colors come in, just so the kids can differentiate, what I wrote by myself, then what I wrote consulting a classmate, and then finally what I wrote consulting a classmate and the internet or my classmate and my textbook or some other sources. And the idea is that progressively students will be able to write more in that first color and have to write less in that second and third color.
That's good stuff.
Not something I invented. Came from a woman at UC Boulder, and I'm blanking on her name right now. It'll come to me, and I'll share it in the chat eventually.
That'll work. Have you blogged about this?
I did blog about it last year when I first used it with my students.
Okay.
And I really like it.
So,
I,
so at some point then today, let's call up that blog link and we'll get that into the chat
yeah.
and then into the links. Because of course, because you are watching this, because you registered, you are going to get an email from me. Oh, what a threat. No, no, it's a good thing. And what that means is, right, that there will be a link there to go to where the recording of this lives, where the slides are, where the links are. We just make it easy for you. We're just those kind of guys. We're nice. All right, cool. Let's go to another question, Richard.
Let's get another one. So here's one that's a little more straightforward. It came from Jenny. Is it better to have? Oh, sorry. No, more straightforward than that. When using Google Meet, if I keep the Meet link always visible to the students, can they use the link if I'm not present? In other words, can they meet with friends or classmates even if I didn't initiate the meet? That was Kim's question. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is there is a way to avoid that. So let me share my screen and we'll look at how to avoid that.
Cool beans. Can you just take over, I think, or do I need to stop?
No, I think I can just take over. Hold on. No, you need to stop sharing your screen, Rushton.
Sometimes in life you have to stop sharing your screen.
Now we can smile at each other, and now I can transition it, and I can share my whole screen. There we go. All right. So here's my demo Google Classroom of multiple demo Google Classrooms. You can see what I did all summer. All right. So let's go into this one. Right? And Kim was talking about this Meet link here. Right? Currently, if my kids were to look at this, right, they could go, and let me go down here. Okay? All right. If I have it visible to students, right, if that's visible to the students, they can go and click on that at any time and start chatting away. And in fact, last spring, I had students doing that. I would show up for my Google Meets at 8 a.m. and they'd already be in there waiting for me. Like, hey, Mr. Byrne, where you been? Where you been? Where you been? Right?
So was that your technique for getting them to show up to class on time at 8 a.m.?
No. It wasn't so much them getting up. It was them still being up at 8 a.m. What I learned.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So anyway, so if you hide that, right,
Mm-hmm.
you can hide that. Let's go back into the settings, right? Let's make that not visible to students. You can still share this link with them when you want them to use it, right? But it's not visible to them at the top of the Meet link, right? So what you can do is like this. Right? I'll do like a, hey kids, we're meeting at 8 a.m. Use this link. Okay? And let's say I'm going to post it, right? I'll schedule it to be at 7:58 a.m. tomorrow morning. So they won't even see the announcement. Oh, I forgot to put the link in there.
Got to add the link. That's right.
Gotta add the link. Sorry, had to add the link. They won't even see that until 2 minutes before 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. So they won't have it. Now, when they're done with it, when we're done, I'll delete it. Right? So,
now, but this is merely a visibility issue. If some enterprising kid copied the link once, then that kid could get into it at any time. Is that right?
Right. Yep. So there's another way around this.
All right.
And that's to use a Meet nickname. So go to meet.google.com and make sure you're in the right one of your 5 accounts that you have, in my case. And let's say I'm using a meeting nickname of Richard and Rushton Rock. Okay. Very long meeting nickname.
Yeah, it's true.
If I hit continue right now, it's going to start that meet. But I can tell my students, okay, tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., we're going to have a Google Meet, and the Meet nickname is Richard and Rushton Rock. They won't be able to join until I start the meeting.
Got it. Now here's a question. So let's say a teacher has clicked on that tantalizing link in the stream in Classroom. Create the meet for your classroom. All will be well. You know, unicorns, rainbows. All right. Once you've done it, are you stuck with it? I mean, like, is that link gonna be available for all time? Can you get into
So let's go.
Meet?
So let's take a look at that. Let's go back in there.
Okay.
Let's address that one. So like this one here. Now it's hidden from my students right now.
All right.
Let's go into our settings. Let's reset it.
Very nice.
Now we've got a new one.
All right.
So if you wanted to really, like, you know, every day reset it, you could. Now, the last little bit about this, G Suite for Education, in the timeline of stuff that they are rolling out, we should say, there will be the option for an admin to prevent students, if they're in a student group, from starting a meet. But that's one of those things that's kind of rolling out on the schedule of Google, you know, in between their lunch breaks and everything else that they do at Google.
Well, you know, it's this interesting arms race between Google and Zoom about features. I mean, a lot of the things that Meet's rolling out right now really are things that have been in Zoom for a long time. But there are other things, you know, that you know, they're looking to take that leap forward on. I think they seem to be ahead of the game in terms of captioning. You know, we're still kind of waiting on one of these two to create an effective pre-assigned breakout room situation, because sure haven't seen that yet, right? You know, but I know the willingness is there, but still. Now that actually turned out to be a really long answer to one that
it did. Sorry.
Yes, right, but still. But let's get to some cool stuff. So Richard, tell us about TeacherMade.com.
So TeacherMade.com is a new thing that I just learned about yesterday. Someone called me. Actually, one of the co-founders called me on my phone randomly in the middle of my school day, and I actually answered it because I didn't have any students.
Therein lies the issue, by the way, but keep going.
But it's actually a really cool tool. It's called TeacherMade.com. It just launched this week, or within the last couple of weeks, I guess. What it does is it lets you upload your existing documents and add questions on top of them, and it will automatically do automatic scoring on those. There's other services that do that. You know, there's other services that do the same thing. One of the things that I like about it, it does more than multiple choice. It actually does things like hotspot clicking, which is probably the coolest thing. So you could give a prompt to your students of, I want you to click on all of the, all the rectangles on this picture. Okay? And so it'll just count where they click, if they click it correctly or they don't click it correctly. So that's kind of a neat little feature of it.
Yeah, that's cool. Hopefully the kids will click on the square, by the way. The square is indeed a rectangle.
Yeah, sorry. I was struggling to come up with an example. Triangles. I don't know. I was trying to think of a science example, but I couldn't think of a science example on the spot. And it's been a long day. I spent most of my day today running cable through the drop ceiling in my classroom.
And that actually brings us to the Better You Than Me portion of today's show. Let's keep going. So another question. Richard, pull up another one from that list we got. Richard. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what Richard looks like when he is frozen. Are you back? Have we got you? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go on to Rushton Share, and we're going to see if Richard can reconnect with those of us who are here. Are you back? You back? You back? You're not back. Just don't say anything for a minute. All right, so my quick share. So Richard impressively said, "This is something I only learned about yesterday." And indeed, that was impressive. Richard's an impressive guy. I learned about this one this morning. Wow. Anyway, so what this is that I have been a fan of Quizizz for quite a while. Quizizz is kind of like Kahoot, but different enough. Sometimes people are like, well, which one do you prefer? Well, honestly, I prefer Quizizz, but My thinking is that what you want to do is you want to get kids to like do both and then talk with them about it. Which one of these is better for how you learn, for, what you're interested in as we go through these things, which one's better? Now, what I want to do is I want to show you what they seem to be adding. So they took like a big old whopping leap forward on this. And the thing that caught my eye when in their mailing was that they said, this is our biggest update ever. And I'm like, really? All right, well, let's see what the biggest update ever looks like. So I went in. Richard, welcome back, by the way. I'm explaining that I learned about this one this morning. Thank you very much. All right. So anyway, so here I am, and I go in. If you go into Quizizz.com, you get the main pages. You look for a quiz that somebody's created, because don't reinvent wheels, because that's just a bad idea. Please don't reinvent wheels. Stop. All right. But up here in the upper right, in addition to finding stuff that other people have created, and now is lessons. What's lessons? This is about how far I've got into it right here. You're like, that's it? That's as far? I learned about it this morning. What can I say? So apparently what it is you've got these kind of options for adding different things as if they were slides, right? Which they kind of are, but you've got like the quizzes tools that you add to them as well. And so I'm actually quite excited to get in this and to try it out a little more to see like, well, what is Quizizz Lessons really all about? And is it as cool to these kinds of presentations as Quizizz is cool for quiz game-ish stuff? So there is my share. And now that we have Richard back, because it's just good in life to have Richard back, I want to take us back to our main slides. And we're going to keep going with the, oh, look what I did there. By the way, check that out. This slide, that's where you find lessons. And this slide, that's where you've got the, no. Thank you. All right, so here we go. Questions. Richard, what's our next?
Right. Here's the question. This is a question from Jenny. Is it better to have one Remind classroom or use multiple classrooms? I have 5 sections of the same health class. I'm trying to cut down on the number of times I have to write new messages. So, Jenny, it's not an either or. It's you can send the same, you can have multiple classrooms and still send the same message without having to recompose it every time.
Well said.
In Remind, you can compose a message once and select multiple classes to send it to.
Right.
So do that.
Matter of fact, that's pretty much all we need to say on that question. I'm thinking, I like that. That's Remind's a great tool. If you're like, wait, what's this Remind thing we're talking about? Remind.com is a great tool. So make sure to give that a look.
Yeah. All right. So another question from Lynn. I learned about using Flipgrid Shorts to record quick whiteboard videos for my students. However, this feature seems to be missing this school year. I waited until Flipgrid updates were complete to see if they moved the option to record whiteboards. I can't find it, and my Google searches on this topic have not helped. Any help would be appreciated. Well, it's still there. It did move, though. It is slightly moved. When you launch your recording in Flipgrid, I love Flipgrid, by the way. I mean, who doesn't love Flipgrid? Everybody loves Flipgrid. In Flipgrid, when you are using the Shorts feature, launch your camera, launch your recording tool. I would screen share and show it right now, but my webcam's already being used.
Of course, I'm actually showing it right now.
Oh, you are? Okay, good. It's there.
That's how you and I work, and it's all good.
Yeah. It's there. Sorry, I was looking at I was going to bring it up on mine at the same time you brought it up on yours. Wow. It's in Shorts. So go to Shorts, launch your camera, and it's under the effects. It's under effects. That's where it is. So it's not gone, still there. And I should point out that Flipgrid works inside a Wakelet. So if you're a Wakelet fan, you can use the Flipgrid Shorts camera in Wakelet. So,
rock and roll. What's our next question?
Is there a way to, this is from April, is there a way to do the labeling activity with Google Draw and Google Classroom in Canvas? I'm not sure how to get it to make a file for each student in the Canvas platform. So April is referring to an activity that I've done or demoed is in Google Drawings. You can make a labeling activity where you write a list of labels on one side and a diagram on the other, and you have kids drag the labels onto the diagram. and then share it in Google Classroom under the function of make a copy for each student. That way they don't change your original or change anyone else's. Unfortunately, that does not work in Canvas. It's a feature unique to Google Classroom. So the answer is no.
I had a, and that would be no. So one of the interesting questions that I have seen come up a lot, and Richard, it would be cool to kind of get your thoughts on this, is Google Classroom versus like Canvas or Schoology or any of like the standard LMSs, right? And of course, you look at it and you're like, well, Classroom is free. So what is it that you have to bring to another LMS to make a school say, well, we want to pay? Now, I get, for example, Seesaw's wonderful tools for the youngest learners. It's a really good interface for them, things like that. But what's your opinion on like LMSs for like middle and high school? Should they be looking at things like Canvas and Schoology, or what's your opinion?
So I'm sharing the labeling activity I just mentioned as well.
Okay.
So I think for some schools, the appeal is the control. Right? When you get into those LMSs, let's say Canvas or Schoology, you have, I would say there's more flexibility in some regard in terms of structuring, right? Structuring the layout a little bit.
More question types, things like that, right?
Right. There's more of that, but there's a trade-off in that it doesn't, Canvas doesn't offer a word processing tool, right? So you're always going to be importing from Google Documents, or you're going to be importing from Word, or you're going to import your pages, whatever file that is. So that's true. I think the other thing that people like is just, being away from the Google ecosystem. There are a lot of IT administrators, and you talk to a lot of school administrators too, Rushton.
Oh yeah.
Probably hear this. There's a lot of, anti-Googliness out there.
Right.
Much in the same way that 10 or 15 years ago, there was a lot of anti-Microsoft.
Right.
Which it's just really funny as an observer of this marketplace now for almost 15 years, how 15 years ago it was very much anti-Microsoft. Oh, they're a big bad Microsoft. And now we're starting to see, it's a big bad Google. Let's get our stuff away from Google. Yeah, and either way, someone's got your data in a data farm somewhere.
Right, and the challenge there really comes down to when you hear the critiques, like Microsoft, they're evil, right? Google, they're, they say they're do no evil, but or whatever. Apple, doesn't matter. Yeah. The real question is, do they provide a product that allows you to do what you want to do in your educational environment, and is it a good product? And the kinds of like Apple versus Microsoft back in the day, Apple versus Google now, whatever, right? That is not our job, to be cheerleaders on the side of a football game for two companies. That's not our job at all. Our job is to find the best tools at the best prices, generally, for our students and our colleagues. And so, if somebody's like, I just don't like Google, it's like, really? I like them just fine until something better comes along.
Yeah.
You're a Google fanboy until something better comes along, and then I'm not, right? As I see it, our job is to find the stuff that works well. And once we have done that, we then have the job of getting together and creatively brainstorming with the tool to figure out how we can articulate, this is what it does well, this is what it doesn't, as we've discussed it. But most teaching groups, most teaching colleagues aren't in a mode of creative brainstorming about the tools and activities that they use and do in their classrooms. And that is the much more important missing piece than the pluses or minuses for any given company.
That you just could have triggered my entire rant about ambassador programs and endorsement programs. And we don't have enough time for me to rant about that today.
Right.
Suffice it to say, I went on a rant on it on Twitter a couple of years ago, and it got me uninvited from a couple of podcasts.
So there you go. Well, speaking of there we go. Let's note that our job as educators is to care for our kiddos, to bring wonderfully cool and creative things to inspire them in their learning. And to do that well, we have to take good care of ourselves. And in that regard, special for you guys who are with us today, I'm going to give away like a Starbucks card. So we got these 2 webinars today. And if you sign up for my newsletter today, then you have the chance to win a Starbucks card. Matter of fact, even if you're already on my newsletter, if you will just say that in the comments as you go to the newsletter page, that's fine. I'll put you in the drawing anyway. So I'll put that in the chat right there. Boom. Give away a little caffeine. If you're like, I'm not a caffeine person, then something else. Herbal tea, all good. All right. But feel free. So the link is there. Feel free to join it. All good. That slide, yet more encouragement to get on the newsletter, because the newsletter is great. And I put out a good one. Richard puts out a good one. Life's good. I do a little blog, right? Oh, actually, you had a thought right there. I interrupted you.
No, I said, Pat just said in the chat that she gets your newsletter.
That's because Pat is a wonderful human being who will continue to amass good karma in the ways that she has all her life. Pat, you're awesome. All right, let's see. I've written books, check it out. So these are to help you become a better teacher. This is how to work with your colleagues and your leadership to create a better environment for the school. This is the new one that came out last December. That is all for school leaders and using tech effectively as a leader. Tell us about this right here, my friend.
That is the Practical EdTech Handbook. It is free, 64 pages this year. 64 pages of my favorite EdTech tools and tips, and tons of links to video tutorials throughout it as well. Just sign up for my newsletter. Go to practicaledtech.com/weekly-newsletter, and you can get your own copy for free. PDF, download, get it. And my YouTube channel keeps growing. I do 0 in terms of special effects or anything to that effect that Jim Sill would be proud of, but I don't do any of that stuff. But somehow 28,400 people now subscribe to it to watch all my screencast videos about all manner of EdTech tools. You can send me an email. You can tweet at me. That's it. That's all I got to say about that.
Excellent.
Thanks
My name
for joining
is
us.
Rushton. I am a former high school teacher of Japanese language, a former principal of a K-12 school, former principal of an online high school. And for the last 15 years, I've been running my little, check that out. We still got that there. Clear, all drawings. My little nonprofit called Next Vista for Learning. And I hope you will give nextvista.org a look and see all of the cool videos that we have got from teachers and students around the world. I hope you have gotten a lot out of this here little show that we do, and that you will join us next week and perhaps even share word of it with others. And with that, we will see you next week.